And we're live, brother. How you doing, man?
Hey, pretty good. It's been a tough week at work. No better place to be here than on Thursday night to do our pregame for the next game, which is Texas Tech. If you look up in the right-hand corner, I believe, right-hand corner, the way you're looking at the channel here, if you see up there, we are now presented, or our network is presented by DraftKings. So if you go to DraftKings, you type in promo code TPPN, there will be some special, I think it's $150 for every, let me get this little readout here, $150 in free bets when you place a $1 bet on any football game. So it's really, really cool, man, to have DraftKings presenting us at this particular point.
Yeah, it's really exciting. It got real, when we joined the TPPN network, and then they signed a deal with DraftKings. But so happy you guys are in here to talk Texas football with the upcoming Big 12 opener against Texas Tech. Please go listen to our Inside the Numbers podcast. It was by podcast only, so Spotify, Apple, Stitcher. Please go give that a listen. We published it last night, so please go give that a listen.
Maybe we put the actual. Can we put the link down in the chat box? Is that possible?
Absolutely.
Put the link down put the link down in the chat box, and then so that after the show, you can click on that link and go to our Inside the Numbers. We talk a lot of Pro Football Focus. It was geared towards really what some of the 5 things we're looking for from a statistical view. On what we expect from the Texas Longhorns moving through the Big 12. And that's talking about quarterback pressure, penalties, tackling. Help me out, Jeremy. The next one was, I think, red zone efficiency. And I think we ended it with run scheme, gap versus zone run schemes.
For the offensive line. Absolutely.
The offensive line, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of analytics, a lot of talk about, specifically those 5 things that Clint just talked about, our lack of committing penalties, and our discipline was the one that struck me the most. The lack of, Casey Thompson's preparation leading to his performance on the field was probably my second favorite topic of that show. And then, of course, we went into the run game, which is dynamic for the University of Texas, and where we feel like we need to, continue against Texas Tech this weekend.
Yeah, so we're going to go through. You want to hit the recruiting first, and then because there is some recruiting news out there, and I think it's important. We don't get to talk much recruiting while we're in season, but I think some big things are happening there on the 40 acres, or soon to be happening based on visits. Well, you want to start with that?
Yeah, I can talk that. So Utah linebacker Lander Barton visits tomorrow. Pretty sure he's going to stay for the game, along with Ronald Lewis, the cornerback from Louisiana, will be on the 25th. But the biggest weekend, that's kind of getting submitted and being placed is October 16th with Larry Turner Gooden, the recent decommitment from Arizona State. He decommitted today. There's been a lot of smoke that he's looking at Texas. The current commit for the SMU Mustangs, Jordan Hudson, the receiver out of Garland and the Metroplex, and then Ernest Green, the offensive tackle. We all know we need offensive line commits in this 2022 class. So Ernest Green's coming to visit on October 16th.
Yeah, that's going to be a big weekend because there's a bunch of 23s coming in that weekend, I believe, too, against Oklahoma State. So along with the 22s, there's going to be some big 23 guys there that weekend when we host Oklahoma State there at DKR. But yeah, definitely excited, man. It's nice to talk a little bit of recruiting, but let's get into and Glenn Keller just put out Denver Harris this weekend too. I did see some rumblings, but wasn't for sure 100%. But if we're 100% at this particular point, that's definitely big time. And I think he changed his Twitter profile to look like all of Texas. So we'll see. I think from a game standpoint, and we'll get into it. I think this may be the biggest test for Texas moving into Big 12 play. Probably the biggest test our secondary is going to see outside of what we already seen this weekend. So let's get into Texas Tech. Obviously Texas offense, you're talking about 3 solid running backs, one of the best wide receivers in the country. And then you have Tyler Shuck, I want to make sure I say that, is a transfer from Oregon. I think he led Oregon to a Pac-12 championship last year, and then wound up transferring to Texas Tech. Currently 67.9% of his passes completed, 67.9% of his passes, 55 of 81 for 804 yards, 6 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Big kid, man, 6'5", 225 pounds. So if you go back and kind of look at some of the film I've looked at from Houston, and you're looking at, Florida International University, and I think it was Stephen F. Austin, he don't mind getting outside the pocket. He actually throws well when he gets outside the pocket, but definitely want to make sure that we keep him in the pocket, make sure that pressure's there, and make him have to go to his first look. So,
yeah, absolutely agree with that. We've shown that we've been able to cover receivers against the first three teams we played. Josh Thompson, Deshaun Jameson, the rest of the secondary has played phenomenal in coverage. We need to continue that this week. Make them run the football against us because we have a stout defensive line, we believe. The only game we had a hiccup was against Arkansas, but just excited to see what we have, to show Shuck, because I think Pete Kwiatkowski's only opened up his playbook, just a little bit. They're going to see more things, now that we started Big 12 play to come.
Yeah. So, and again, I don't want to give too much into our Inside the Numbers podcast, but I think what we're going to have to look at, if you go back and look at that Texas Tech game from last year, we had I think most missed tackles of all games last year at 19. But some of those numbers, if you were to look at Pro Football Focus, and you look at our cornerbacks and Deshaun Jameson, Josh Thompson, it is 31 opportunities, 0 missed tackles from our cornerbacks, and that includes Darian Dunn as well. So they're a really good job tackling, and I think that's going to be important because I think they're going to try to put athletes in space like they do. I think they're going to be run heavy first, and then they're going to try to put athletes in space, and you're going to have to come up and tackle. We got to tackle really, really well in this game. Yeah,
absolutely agree. And we've done that. We've done that in 2 of the 3 games. We've tackled really, really well. So, guys, I dropped the link down for the Inside the Numbers podcast that we did last night for you guys to see. I'm going to take it away, and then at the end of the podcast, I'll push it back up. But you guys know where to find us: Spotify, Twitcher, and all those other Apple podcasts and all those other places you can find us. But I'm going to remove it now and then go back to what we were talking about.
Yeah, I don't. And Dave Williams is, talking about here. I would not say the secondary has played phenomenal.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Phenomenal. I have questions about coverage, especially if Texas does not pressure the quarterback consistently. And again, this is going to be our first test. I wouldn't say that Arkansas, Louisiana, and Rice have obviously have not given you really what you're looking for in the pass game. Do they complete high percentage passes? Absolutely. If you go back and look at yards per catch, it's not large. You've only been burnt, I think, over the top twice. You've had 1 completion for over 30 yards, 1 completion for over 40 yards in 3 games. I'm not going to beat them up on that as long as those passes didn't wind up touchdowns, and those weren't touchdowns at all. Those were just completed passes. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, David's absolutely right. Probably phenomenal is an overstatement, but what I will say is what we thought was going to be a detriment to our football team coming into this year that I feel like they've cleaned up. But again, it's 3 games against Louisiana, who was a ranked opponent, an SEC team on the road, and Arkansas, who kind of got with us, and then Rice last week. So, yeah, they continue to grow. Again, they're a senior-laden group. When you're talking about Deshaun Jameson, Cook, you're talking about, Thompson, Schooler, and then B.J. Foster. Of course, you got Jaron Thompson in there as well. But, yeah, I've been very impressed so far with their coverage skills. Phenomenal might be an overstatement, but I like the way they're playing, and I hope they continue to improve.
Yeah, absolutely. Going on to the next, obviously, got a couple of running backs there. You got Taj Brooks, 5'10", 220 pounds, out of Manor, Texas, averaging 8.1 yards per carry, 35 carries for 284 yards. That's a nice little clip with 4 touchdowns. And you have Xavier White, 18 carries for 128 yards at 7.1 yards per carry for 1 touchdown. Then they have a 3-headed monster, a guy coming off a shoulder injury that played well against us last year, is coming back into the fold for them. And I think they're going to try to run the ball first, man, on our defensive front. And then try to run to set up the pass. I think that's the way it's going to work, just like we're going to try to do. I think we're going to be run heavy, and then try to get our guys in man coverage, and kind of see where it leads. And we'll kind of get to some predictions towards the end of the show with that. And then you have, obviously, go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, our game plan hasn't changed. The things that Texas Football Talk has talked about against, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Rice haven't changed. You gotta set up the run to set up the pass. Like you have to use Bijan Robinson, Keelan Robinson, and Roschon Johnson to set up your pass game. And I think they feel the same way. Is they have to use Taj Brooks, Xavier White. I had a stat here that their top 6 returning rushers were coming back. Eight total starters on offense, 8 total starters on defense, top 6 returning rushers, top 2 returning receivers, and then their top 4 tacklers on defense. So, yeah, they got an experienced team coming back. But I think it all begins with setting up the run to again, set up your RPO game or your play action pass. I don't think you can pass to set up the run. Because if we cover the way we think we can cover, then they're going to be behind the chains, and they're going to have to find a way to matriculate the ball down the field. But at the same time, I think it's always a game plan to run first and then go with the pass game.
Yeah, it may be. But last week, if you look at it, they tried to get Xavier Worthy part of the ball game really fast. So they didn't actually – we figured they would hand it off to Bijan Robinson the first play of every game. But what they do, they wind up running a wide receiver really screen to Xavier Worthy. So it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't try to maybe loosen it up a little bit on the outside first and trying to get some of these guys in the open field. It wouldn't surprise me if, and I keep telling Jeremy this, and maybe it may happen, maybe it won't. But see a little Keelan Robinson, man, with that speed, line up, come out of the backfield from a second running back, go out there in the slot, run a wide receiver screen with him for a couple of times, getting up to 23.7 miles per hour on that play that he had, which is crazy. But yeah, so really want to talk about obviously their what could be their first team All Big 12 wide receiver, 𝗟𝗚𝗏𝗘 𝗦𝗧. I don't want to screw that up. 16 catches, 350 yards, and a touchdown. He currently leads the Big 12 in receiving. Who do we match up on him? Obviously, he's a big guy, but he plays really, really well in space if you've seen him play.
Who do you think I'm matching up on him?
Yeah.
Probably Deshaun Jameson's going to shadow him. Again, I don't know that we shadow receivers very much, but again, they have to be able to cover this guy. I think you said he had 7 catches for 91 and a touch last year against us. So definitely got to limit his productions, maybe roll a safety over the top of him, and then, make the other guys beat you either in the running game against our defensive line or, find another receiver that they can go to. But I think you're probably playing the safety over the top of whoever you have them in most cases. Yeah.
And then moving over to obviously their defense, again, Jeremy was talking about the returning starters there and the experience they come back. You have this is Texas Tech's run defense against our run game. Because if you look at it right now, currently against the first 3 games they played, looking at 1.8 yards per carry, 57.3 yards per game given up, and then currently 9th in the nation versus Texas, who's rushing for 245 yards per game. But again, you got to go back in competition. Somebody asked me today, I was out and about doing some work. Somebody asked me today, how do you bet these? I don't bet, but they were like, how do you bet these early games? And I said, it's hard coming off of FCS or FBS games, or out of conference games because, the talent disparity of some of these teams is difficult. So you really don't know what you're going to get until you get into conference play. I think it's going to be a tough game there in DKR this weekend. Do I, and I'll give my score prediction in the game. Do I think we have an opportunity to kind of spread it a little bit further than what the experts are saying? Absolutely. But it's going to be tough. And I think, again, their front 7 is tough. They're going to line up Colin Schooler all over the field. They're going to put him on the edge. They'll line him up at linebacker. They're going to bring him on, stunts. They're going to bring him on blitzes. So they're going to definitely have to be prepared for where that guy is each and every play, because currently right now he's probably the best guy they got in that front 7.
Yeah, I really don't think they're going to hold Bijan Robinson in the game to 1.8 yards per carry. I think we'll do a little bit better than that. But at the same time, like you said, it's hard you watch football and you wax and learn, right? You see Ohio State, get beat by Oregon at home. You see, Oklahoma play last week against Nebraska, and it's not what you expect to see. You watch our performance up at Arkansas, and it's not what you expect to see. What you got to do is take each play, as their own and try to communicate and get the best play on the field and then execute. That's the most important thing. But, yeah, it's going to be a challenge. Like you said, Colin Schooler will line up all over the place. But I anticipate that we will be able to run the football against Texas Tech. Maybe proven wrong, but I think we can do it, especially with our current quarterback situation. Like, I think Casey represents a lot of threats, to a defense because he's so decisive. And if he doesn't see the look that he's looking for, then he could, he's very quick with his decisions, getting the ball downfield. Again, we talked about that in our Inside the Numbers podcast last night, and which helps him, distribute the ball in the run game and short passing game that we talked about a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I think again, aggression can almost and I think that's where you're probably going to see it. Aggression will sometimes get you because again, you get past that first, you get past that line of aggression, that first line. All of a sudden, there's nobody back in the two. You know what I'm saying? Which allows you to run for 65, 70 yards a clip. So if you find those gaps and you get those blockers on them, which overall run blocking really hadn't been a big issue. And again, talked about that. If you're looking at running the ball, it's going to be on both ends, on the left end or the right end. We've done really, really good on that. So I think zone running is probably going to be our key tomorrow. And try to run the ball as much as we can, and then get our wide receivers in space.
And that's why I would disagree with Working Man. He said we are probably going to throw first, then run. The consistency of our wide receiver core. Jordan Whittington had a great game against Louisiana. We haven't seen him much ever since. Xavier Worthy had a game against, Rice, but we didn't really see very much from him against Louisiana and Arkansas. So, but I know what I get in Bijan Robinson, Roschon Johnson, and Keelan Robinson in that running back room. So, yeah, they may use the pass to set up the run, but in my mind, I'm going with what I believe is my most consistent, and that's my ability for my offensive line to run block and the caliber of running backs that I have behind them. So that may be true, but in Lockaby's game plan, Jeremy's game plan, I'm going to run to shore up the pass. Just my thoughts.
Yeah, I think, but again, a wide receiver screen is a run to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree.
A wide receiver screen is a run to me. A wide receiver sweep is a run to me, regardless if you're catching calling it a reception or not. Those are to me that's just an extension of the run game, and I think that's important. I think you're going to have to do that, and I think that's what it's going to do. It's going to allow us to spread their defense out, so you create lanes for your running backs to be able to shoot through those gaps. Because if you can get some of these guys to push back a little bit in the front seven, because you are beating them in those. Again, get the ball to Xavier Worthy or get the ball to Keelan Robinson on a wide receiver screen. There's a chance they're going to take that shit to the house.
So you agree? You think that spreading the field horizontally is more impactful than vertically? Because I totally agree with you. Like, make them cover every square feet horizontally, because we have shown that we don't have the ability to throw the ball downfield. Casey Thompson, we talked about this yesterday, and his ability to throw the ball over 20 yards is limited, or the statistics show that. Hudson Card was the same way. We got limited success throwing the ball vertically downfield. So I agree with you. Spread them out horizontally as far as you possibly can. Run outside zone like we talked about last night, and get them on their heels. But I think it's going to have to be that piece. It's the horizontal passing game and the running game that's going to allow you to get shots downfield vertically that we haven't had in the first 3 or 4 games.
Yeah, I think that somebody, the comment up here is about the outside zone run. I think it's because your running backs are able to make, put a foot in the ground and find space. They let the play come to them versus going to the play. And they're really good about taking that one cut and finding that lane and taking it. And I think that's why they're so good at really the zone game, because they're not in a hurry to find that hole. And as soon as they find that hole, they're able to put their foot in the ground and take off north and south. And go ahead.
Yeah, the term we used last night was tactical patience. Casey Thompson has tactical patience. He understands what he sees before him, and he's very tactile in understanding it, but he's patient enough to let it come open and not force it. The same thing with Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson in the run game. They see it before them, but they let their blocks set up. And like we talked about last night, they let Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson into second level against a safety or cornerback as a mismatch. If you can block the front seven, get a hat on the hat against the front seven, and have those guys outside zone run and line up on a corner or safety, game over. Like, you're stiff arm to the ground and you're finding your way to the sidelines for another 4 or 5 yards, and you're moving the chains. So absolutely get the guys out on the perimeter horizontally, both in the run game and the pass game, and see where that leads you.
Yeah, Vader RT, the lack of limited downfield passing is due to poor offensive line protection in case through the ball, just ball deep. We're not saying that he can't throw the ball deep. Absolutely, we think he can. But right now, if you're looking at the time that he has in the pocket from a pass protection standpoint, it's hard to do a play action pass and get these guys down the field because those plays take forever. So if your line can't hold up for average 3.5, 4 seconds in the pocket, so a receiver can get down the field, it's going to be hard to do that long game. And I think that's why you have to start horizontally, get your run game going, get these guys up in the box, and then take your shots. I think you still have to take shots vertically down the field, multiple times a game, just to try to get those big home run touchdowns. I think that's definitely something that Steve Sarkisian's not going to go away from that. That's who he is. He'll continually say that we're going to play action pass. We're going to try to get him down the field. I just don't think he's going to go away from that.
But I think we're wrong here though, because we talked about time to throw last week, right? The reason why the change was made because Hudson Card had 4.28 seconds to throw when Spencer Rattler had 2.68, Bryce Young had 2.68. So protection for Hudson Card, he had 4.28 seconds time to throw by PFF. So I don't think it's a lack of O-line protection. I think we need to see the current quarterback who is now the starter can see the things that we probably didn't see in the first 2 weeks, and is going to take advantage of those. But at the same time, you don't want him holding the ball too long, because then you find yourself in negative play. So I like his decisiveness, getting the ball out of his hands, taking the shorter intermediate routes versus the deep routes in order to move the ball down the field, because that's what he's done. He's consistently scored points. Whether it's been an 80-play drive or a 50-play drive or a 30-play drive, he consistently finds himself in the end zone or Dicker's on the field kicking a field goal. So I'm not arguing with anything that Casey Thompson has done or his abilities. What I'm saying is that he has a formula to score points, and that's what, at the end of the game, what we want to do more than them. And I would beg to differ on the protection of the offensive line when Hudson Card was a starter. I just think he tapped the ball too long, was indecisive on where he wanted to go with the football.
Yeah, because I think Casey Thompson had a couple of shots downfield that he could have hit last week. One in Xavier Worthy, that was one, and then two was on a tip ball. If he would have had a split second, if he would have had that, I think it was tip ball. But I think Steve Sarkisian went back on rewind and said that was a post route that we would have definitely hit, and we would have took that one to the house. So I think the way that he's running the offense right now, he needs to consistently do that. Again, Steve Sarkisian is going to put him in a place that he's comfortable. What plays, given the playbook that he's comfortable running. But I think you're still going to see some of those shots down the field if they're open. He gets one man-on-man coverage with some of his wide receivers. All righty, let's take some questions. You want to?
Let's do it, man.
Okay, all right, here we go. David Williams here. Texas Tech secondary is likely the weakness of this entire team. I think Casey Thompson is good enough to pass to exploit the weakness. He just needs help from the outside receivers more and Worthy. And I think you're going to, again, Worthy played well. I think Moore didn't start last week. Kelvontae Dixon is the one that actually – no, Marcus Washington. Washington started last week, and I think that's because they're giving him an opportunity to start because of his blocking, what he does on the blocking game. So if you know that Marcus Washington's coming out there's probably going to be some kind of wide receiver screen or some kind of reverse to get them guys out of space, because Marcus Washington, they want Marcus Washington out there. But
I think that was the alignment when Worthy went across on the tunnel screen. They had Washington and him line up on the same side, Worthy in the slot and Marcus Washington outside. So it might have told him they were probably going to run a screen to that side. And once he went in motion, then it's all that schematics that Steve Sarkisian is really, really good at. But yeah, Joshua Moore has been the most consistent receiver for the last 2 years for the Texas Longhorns, and he is yet to be heard from. And that's the thing, is the offense currently doesn't have Joshua Moore, who was the most productive receiver in the last 2 years, and still hasn't seen Troy O'Meara. I would love to see those two guys on the football field, but you got what you got. And like you said, I really think Worthy showed out this last week as a true freshman in his third game. Really, really, executed and played well. And then I need the Jordan Whittington that I saw against Louisiana to come back this weekend. Like, he has to be more consistent.
But again, that's why Greg Lane here, he agrees with me. That's why I think you find yourself down here. I'd like to see Keelan on that orbital motion. Me too. Because to me, this is a mismatch nightmare on anybody in college football. If you get this guy on a two-way go or on a wide receiver screen of some sort where the wide receiver can't be right on top of him, he gets the ball, he has an opportunity to take this joker to the house every time from what we've seen. Again, it was Rice, but again, he did the same thing while it was Alabama last year on a zone run. Did the same thing, just zoomed by some SEC caliber athletes. So to me, I'd like to definitely see Keelan Robinson on some orbital motion out in space and getting that guy the ball, especially if you can't get Whittington and Moore where they're at. Because I don't think there's nothing wrong with Xavier Worthy stepping up and being your number one wide receiver. I don't see a problem with that. But do we need consistency out of Whittington? Absolutely. Do we need to see Joshua Moore show up? Absolutely. But given the cards you're dealt at this particular point, Keelan Robinson probably looks like the fastest guy on the team, and I'm definitely going to try to get him the ball as much as I can.
Yeah, definitely agree. Yeah, put your guys out in space, especially like you said with his 23.3 miles an hour, ability to get downfield. Let him rip. Like put him in motion. Let him run those tunnel screens. Let him try to get in open space against anybody and everybody because he's going to run by him. If he's even, he's leaving.
So let's talk about penalties and stupid mistakes. So currently, Texas has had a total of 13 penalties or 4.3 penalties per game for a total of 30 yards over 30 yards per game over the last 3 games. In 2020, Texas had 770 yards of penalties in 10 games or 77 yards per game. This is big to me. What they've been able to do from a discipline standpoint with the penalties is huge. Because again, if you go back and look at it, it's one of the things that I was telling Jeremy I was going to go back and look at. If you look at the penalties in 2020, I would almost bet that more than 50% were probably on first down and 10. They put you in positions where you were first and 15 or first and 20 because it was either procedure penalty or a holding penalty. So this is definitely something we talked about again in that Inside the Numbers podcast on whatever podcast app you use, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, whatever one you watch. You can just type in Texas Football Talk. But we did talk about penalties inside the numbers. There was last night that we actually pushed out today.
And my question to Clint when he talked about it was, is it the experienced coaching staff? They pay more attention to detail. The guys listen to them, or the guys are more disciplined. Because again, you had a lot of returning starters from last year's football team, but I got to believe that it's the change of coaching staff and their attention to detail that allowed us to, like Clint said, probably be in the top 1/3 of the nation in costly penalties. And the turnover battle, he told me last night, was zero. Like we've had as many turnovers as we've gotten, and I think we're going to pick that up as we go into Big 12 play too. I think we're going to get more turnovers, but yeah, it's just good to not cost yourself football games or find yourself behind the chains because of mistakes that you made against your team.
Working man's birthday. Y'all ready for this? Say 63 years old. 63 years old, man. Happy birthday, working man. I know you've been here for a while. You usually show up for all the lives. We appreciate you. Happy birthday there. And then another situation we got going on here. I know Johnny Munoz is watching us tonight. Sorry, Johnny, you can't comment on the show. He's having an issue. So if anybody has ever had the issue where they can't see the live chat in the middle of a live show, please, if you don't mind, put the fix for the comments down there in the chat box so that you may be able to help someone out, or I can read them out loud so that we can get Johnny Munoz back on the chats, because I can tell you he can definitely bring his game.
Yeah, I think we already talked about this one, Vader. Do you guys think that they should double team 𝗟𝗜𝗞𝗘? And I listened to the Blitz this week. That stats say that 70% of their offensive production runs through him. Absolutely. Safety over the top of him, make the other guys beat you. I'm a Bill Belichick kind of thinker. Let their strongest weapon beat me. I'm going to put a safety over the top of him and make their other receivers and running backs beat me.
Yeah, I think, if you can take away 70% of production from a team, you do it. People know that the ball is going to Bijan Robinson about 60% of the game. So what do? Try to put 8 in the box and stop them. So I think if 70% of the production runs through one person on their football team, absolutely. Like Jeremy said, put a guy over the top of him and split the difference and make someone else on that team beat you or make someone else produce. I guess.
So this is Michael's guide to Johnny out there. Click on the comment button next to the dislike. Don't hit the dislike button, Johnny. Hit that comment button right next to it.
Johnny's going to hit the damn dislike button.
Dang, Johnny can't flex about being the channel sugar daddy anymore. You got to get him back on.
I know, right? I was trying to look for it before I came on. Like, I was trying to figure out, I typed in, how do you find the chat on the live from YouTube? But we had to get on here really fast and I had to stop looking. But I was definitely looking for it.
You want to talk this one? Odds the current line is the same at the end of the year.
I think
I've been surprised, to be honest with you, when the depth chart comes out on Monday, that the same guys are out there, especially after watching that second line produce the way they did last week and get downfield. Yeah, and dominate. Again, it's Rice. But Steve Sarkisian said in his press conference today that Hayden Connor and 𝗟𝗜𝗏𝗘 𝗦𝗧 were the 6 and 7 guys off coming off the bench. Would I be surprised if Hayden or Andre started at the end of the year? Absolutely not. Not in my opinion. But again, I hope the top 5 guys continue to develop and get better week to week to week, so we don't have to have this discussion every week. But yeah, it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, I think it's a possibility that they change them out too. But again, if you go back and listen to Steve Sarkisian's idea of what Kyle Flood wants to do, and it's about these guys playing together, more snaps, more snap after snap after snap after snap. So I look at him changing it out right now. I don't. But like Jeremy said, you get tired of having these conversations about the offensive line. From a pass block point of view, again, if you go back and look at the rush block, everybody's giving Denzel Okafor a hard-ass time about pass blocking, actually blocking altogether. And he's actually our highest graded out run blocker according to Pro Football Focus. So I don't know. But if you can't do both, you become a detriment to the team because, again, I need you to be able to pass block and I need you to be able to run block too.
So I want to promote a couple things real quick. So not sure how many folks have hit that like button. Currently, there's 84 folks in here watching the podcast. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Again, we're sponsored by DraftKings. Please, if you go to DraftKings, type in promo code TPPN for the Pigskin Podcast Network that we're a part of. Again, you can find Texas Football Talk podcasts on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, and all those other platforms. We produced one last night for podcast only, Inside the Numbers with Texas Football Talk. So please go give that a listen, a download. And we really appreciate your attendance tonight. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. Continue to help this channel grow because we're working really, really hard for you guys. Yeah.
And again, we'll have the pregame. We'll have the in-game chat going on Saturday morning, early. Probably start that at about 10 o'clock, about an hour before game time.
Probably going to start since the conference game started about 9 o'clock. We'll let you guys get in there 2 hours early and start. There's a whole lot of angst or anxiety. Somebody was talking about anxiety earlier about conference games and Texas football games, and we agree. That's why we can't be on while we're, doing our in-game chat. But we'll open that thing up for you at 9 o'clock. Of course, the wonderful producer of this podcast, the young lady who does all their thumbnails and all these graphics behind, two guys just talking ball is going to be the moderator for that to allow us to watch the ball game, take notes, and come on for a post-game show right 30 to 45 minutes after the game ends. But, yeah, excited to get the conference play started. Excited to see how this team grows and see how this channel continues to grow because, as we said, this is a family. You guys are part of our family, and we really appreciate your attendance and coming on. And we hope this family continues to grow over the next couple of years as we continue to get after it.
Cody Phillips, $5 super chat. We appreciate you, Cody, man. Definitely appreciate you. One of these days, we definitely got to link up at some particular point, maybe at a football game there. We lost all 3 11 a.m. kicks last year. I got to write that ship. Starting Saturday, we were undefeated in non 11 a.m. kicks last year. I think it all goes back to starting fast. I think every week, that's going to be my biggest takeaway from all games is how fast do we start? Did we get out there and they get the ball first, we stop them, we go down and score, or did we get the ball first, we go down there and score and make them play from behind? I think to me that's going to be the number one thing. And again, 11 a.m. was our early starts, but they're my favorite time of kickoffs. To be honest with you, I'm ready for my football to start, and then I can worry about other football games after my football game's over for the day. So I don't mind 11 a.m. starts. I know Jeremy, I think he likes the 2:30 starts. The middle of the day starts, but then you get those national games on television at night. Night game at DKR, you definitely can't beat those either. So
yeah, I really don't mind 11 a.m. starts when it's November, December. I really don't like 11 a.m. starts in the month of September and October. When it could be a little bit warm. I know we had a recent cold spell that came through that's knocked temperatures down, but I think. It takes wear and tear on your athletes, when you're starting 11 o'clock consistently in Texas in the late summer, early fall. So, yeah, that's the only reason why I really prefer the 2:30, start times. But guess what? You got to go line up and play 60 minutes of football regardless of what time you kick off. And this week it's 11. Next week it's 11 against quality opponents at Texas Tech and TCU or conference opponents as well.
Yeah, so David Williams, I hear numbers do not lie, but it's hard to believe that Denzel Okafor is the team's best run blocker. I would expect to be someone on the right side of the offensive line. Okafor should not be starting. So your second best run blocker is Junior 𝗟𝗚𝗓𝗓 on the football team. Believe it or not, Derek Kerstetter's way down when it comes to their run blocking numbers.
But his pass blocking is number one.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And David, I'm with you, man. Like every time we open up TPPN, when we open up PFF on Sunday afternoon, when we start talking this stuff, it's surprising to me because in game, not going back and rewatching it, you look at PFF's numbers and you're like, absolutely not. That's not what I saw yesterday. But then when you see their numbers and you go back and rewatch the game, then we've done this for 2 weeks. I know 2 weeks in a row when we looked at Louisiana and Arkansas, where we thought they were, very poor in both run blocking and pass blocking. When you go back and look at PFF's numbers, then go back and rewatch the game, it's not near as bad as you thought it was. But I totally agree with you. Every time I wake up on Sunday and we go into these numbers, me and Clint, because we've got them up on our screen, we're talking about them, I'm surprised, to be honest with you. But I don't know where they get them from, but they've been watching film a lot longer than me. I got to believe.
Yeah, it's different because, again, that's why it's hard to do post games right after a game, too, because it's hard. Again, we're fanatics, man. I'm sitting there biting on my nails and running across the damn thing and being mad just like everybody else. But when you go back and watch it, it's not as bad as it felt when it was alive. There's not a lot of missteps.
And maybe this is the thing. Blake's probably hitting on it. It's surprising because over letdowns come in big situations. They're highlighted more because they come in critical situations. Maybe he's the most consistent player from snap 1 to snap 80 and has a couple of gaffes, whereas maybe guys are not as consistent from snap 1 to snap 80. Because the when you give up sacks and pressures, that stands out. When you're writing that stuff down. But every time somebody makes a clean block, you definitely don't write that down in your notes. And so that may be the case that they, play to play 1 through 80. He's the best blocker, most consistent blocker that we have on the offensive line. And then, like you said, a couple of plays a game, he messes up. But that's the totality of playing football. Like I'd rather have a guy that plays well for 78 plays out of 80 than a guy who I've got to worry about for 60 plays out of 80. But definitely with Pro Football Focus and their analyzation of film and our ability to rewatch, like Clint said, it's really, really difficult to come on post-game 30 minutes after the game and really give a definitive answer on every football player and their performance, over the last 4 hours. But it's exciting. It's what we chose to do. It's what we have you here for, to give your feedback as well. So we really appreciate your comments, David.
So Cody Phillips right here. Sorry, we were actually 11 a.m. kicks, West Virginia and K-State. Half our schedule was 11 a.m. kicks last year. Seems odd. And it wouldn't surprise me that half of our games were 11 a.m. This year because between us and Oklahoma, I think they're probably going to give us – Big 12 is probably going to give us the game times that nobody else wants. I don't think it's going to be based on money at this particular point. I think they're just going to give us the games that nobody – hey, no, give Texas that 11 a.m. kickoff with the next – I think we got, 4 already? 4, if I'm not mistaken?
Well, we know –
Oklahoma's a given. Oklahoma's a given.
We already had Louisiana was 11 a.m. kick, correct?
Louisiana was a 2:30 kick, I thought.
So we know Texas Tech, TCU, Oklahoma, you're saying it's a given, and we feel like
Kansas State is 11 o'clock too.
Yeah, so there you go.
So
get up early,
start drinking coffee.
It feels like I'm in Hawaii all over again. Watching Texas football with a cup of coffee, or Korea, which is even worse, like 2:30 in the morning. But hey, it is what it is, man. We got to, in order to get ourselves out of this time slot, I think we got to find ourselves where we should be, and that's the top 10 team in the country to find yourself in prime time. Maybe not. Maybe, like you said, the Big 12 and Fox is sticking it to us for going to the SEC, but at the same time, you line up for 60 minutes regardless of 11:30, 2:30, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and play the team that's before you.
I want to say Ovi, and I haven't had an opportunity to watch it, but they asked Sark about his press conference. They were talking to Ovi Ogofu, and they were asking him, a question, I guess, about scheme and so on and so forth. And he says these guys we're still learning, or still trying to learn, the playbook. And I can imagine that both on the offensive side and the defensive side of the ball, with the way that PK and Sarkisian coach, and their schemes being multiple as they are. I think there's times where in a game, there's going to be bust. There's going to be bust because you're trying to, I hate to say it, but you're trying to teach a new scheme to football players. On having to make those changes then and there. So I think some of those busts come from that as well. But I'm just glad we haven't allowed people to bust them over the top. It feels like we've had less breakdowns on the back end than we have in previous years.
So Rod Babers calls it layers, right? Layers to the offense, layers to the defense. And he in his mind, he thinks that we're continuing to still roll out our game plan as we go through now non-conference in the Big 12, that Steve Sarkisian's offensive playbook is only being layered. Like he has, as he's learning his personnel, plays come out of the playbook, other plays get added in. But he thinks at this point that it's just the tip of the iceberg as far as offensive play calling. On defense, I haven't heard him talk too much about that, but I gotta feel it's the same way. Like I think PK hasn't shown a propensity to bring pressure from the second or third level at this point. You've seen it on occasions, but he's looking to get pressure with the front four. I think as the season continues, I believe that you're going to start seeing more blitz packages, more exotic coverages, more zone dogs, and bringing guys from different levels to increase the pressure on the quarterback, and again give offensive coordinators something else to look at. Yeah,
you want to get into some predictions?
Yes, I'll do it. Let's do it.
All right, here we go.
It's not my favorite thing, but we'll get it.
And it's not our favorite thing. And look, it wasn't. Look, we took a week off against Rice when we probably should have done it against Rice, right? But Arkansas was a hot ass mess, so it's like let's take a week off and then we'll get back into predictions. Okay.
And remember, your job is to go along with us. If we say a rushing total, you're expected to give yours too. On
the comments. This is for on the comment section. This is for everybody. All right, so we can hold you accountable when we go through the just comments.
Like you do us.
Yeah, it's like you do us. You ready for this? All right,
ready.
How many yards does Bijan run for against a defense that's currently giving up 57.3 yards per game? I'll go first.
Go.
Bijan runs for over 125 yards.
I have 150.
150. All right, I'm writing these down too, Jeremy. All right. Okay. All right. Usually write them down. I'm writing them down. All right. Next one is, and again, y'all got to get in the comments box. How many yards does Bijan run against Texas Tech this weekend? All right, we got 95, 120. Joshua Young said 210, 3 touchdowns, 115, 130, 120, 137, 140. All right, so we're all about the same number, somewhere between probably 100 and 150 yards. Most of us, outside of Josh Young, who's got us at 210. All right, Thompson has not had a big passing game yet. How many passing yards does Thompson get this weekend against Texas Tech? You're going first this time.
250.
I got 250 yards, 3 receiving touchdowns. He's going to throw 3 touchdowns.
I'll go 250 and 2 touches.
250 and 2 touches? All right.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy. All right, over, under. Obviously, our sacks are not where they should be at with pressure, okay? Over, under, 3 sacks this weekend.
I already wrote it down, 3.
You got 3?
Yep, I'm pushing.
I'm gonna go over the top. I'm gonna go 4 sacks this weekend. 4 sacks against this transfer quarterback from Oregon against that Texas Tech offensive line. All right. And then our last prediction, obviously final score. I will go first on this one. I got Texas winning 31-20. I think it's going to be a nail biter until probably around the third quarter, and I think Texas is probably going to step on the gas, start running Bijan, start leaning on this offensive line and run the clock out. But I have this winning 31-20 because I got to make sure that PK stays under that 20. We're currently at 19.3 yards per game. We got to keep it there, and the only way we do that is we only let them score 20 points. 31-20.
I've got 38-17.
What?
And I got one last. Yeah, I got one last one.
Mm-hmm.
I've been 3-touchdown guy for a while now. Didn't happen against Arkansas, but I feel pretty good about my Louisiana pick and against Rice. Over under 2 turnovers. Like you said, we're even in the turnover battle. I feel like we need to get turnovers. Start getting turnovers. Over under 2 turnovers.
All right, so I'm gonna go 2 turnovers. I'm gonna go 2 turnovers. One of them's gonna be a strip sack. Out of those 4 sacks, you're gonna have a strip sack.
And I say right at 2.
Right at 2. All right.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna run through some of these numbers real quick. So again, like I said, we got somebody hit. Okay, I thought those were the running numbers for Robinson. They had him like 275 yards. So it looks like passing 263, 10, 265, 280, 285 on the higher side. 267, pretty close to 250, 240. Somebody has him at 325 yards. Then we got 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns. Thompson, 25 attempts for 310 yards and 2 touchdowns. Dave Williams said no prediction. I just hope Texas wins.
Yep. I'm just going through a lot of the score predictions.
Yep. Somebody said 5 sacks.
A 4-point game. Yep.
5 sacks. Casey Thompson, or David Williams, Casey Thompson, 22 with 3,250 yards.
Yeah, he's precise.
Very precise. Like
he always is.
Yeah, very precise.
Everybody thinks 2's the number as far as turnovers.
42-24, 37-24. I may have.
He says 3.
We got any Texas Tech folks on here listening to us tonight? I know I sent it to one person, and I'm not sure if they're listening tonight. But if you're listening there, man, and you think Texas is going to beat, or Texas Tech's going to beat Texas, man, throw that score up there. Dude sent me a text message this week. At the beginning of the week, he's from Lubbock, Texas. He's actually going through a master's program at Texas Tech, and he sent me a picture, and it has like the 4 things that people hate, and it had like no Wi-Fi, loading, the loading sign, and then the other one was no Wi-Fi, no loading, no reception, and then the last one had a Longhorn hook 'em. So I told him kiss my ass, man, and we'll talk on Saturday. So, but I sent him the link to the show tonight just in case he wanted to join us on here because he was asking me about it. But all right, there's 96 people on here watching us. Please hit that like button before we get off of here. Again, we dropped a new podcast called Inside the Numbers. You can find it really on any podcast app, Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, Google. If you can't find it on your app of choice, just let us know. We'll talk to our folks and we'll make sure that it gets pushed over there as well. All you got to do is just go to whatever app you're using. Type in Texas Football Talk. We got a new show, Inside the Numbers. Go ahead, Jeremy. Oh, no, up there in the corner.
Yep. Promote the DraftKings promo code TPPN for $150 on a $1 bet if you're a new subscriber to DraftKings. Get in there, promo code TPPN. Again, they're basically helping us get started to a larger platform, and we really, really appreciate it. Along with you, our family, just excited to continue the season, Big 12 season, in our partnership with TPPN and DraftKings.
Absolutely, man. It's really, really cool. So again, hey, the actual I think Jeremy put the link in the comments box, so you can actually find that there. You click on it. It'll take you to, I think once you hit on that, it'll take you to whatever app you use for listening to podcasts. So you can just click on the link in the comments box, and then give it a shot, man. Give it a listen. Tell us what you think. We'll do a couple of those. We do one that's called Overtime. We take some of the questions that we are not able to get to during our live shows, and we'll answer those, and we'll call the Overtime. And then we do another one called Inside the Numbers, where we kind of break down what Pro Football Focus tells us about what our team does from week to week. And we'll kind of change that up depending on what stats we want to pull up, and kind of go from there. But we appreciate y'all listening as always. Go ahead, Jeremy.
No, and the easiest way to get this is Clint put it in our Twitter. So if you're not following us on Twitter, please follow Texas Football Talk on Twitter, and you'll be able to grab this link just that quickly and be able to listen to that Inside the Numbers podcast. Really appreciate everybody hopping on tonight. Again, we know we're against, Thursday Night Football, Steve Sarkisian's, and Craig Way's show, and Fanatic Perspectives coming on after us about 38 minutes from now. So go give those guys a listen. Really enjoy their work, but get excited for Texas Tech. 11 a.m. kickoff. Let's go.
Yeah. So you can find us on Facebook at Texas Football Talk, on Instagram at Texas Football Talk, and on Twitter at TX Football Talk. Again, we'll catch you on Saturday. We will have the live chat up at about 10 o'clock in the morning. And then we'll see you probably around 30 to 45 minutes after the end of the football gets depend on how it goes. If it goes well, may take a few minutes. Catch our breath. If it doesn't go so well, the quicker the better to get on there and let people start venting. But I think it's going to be a really, really good weekend there at DKR. So enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you on Saturday. Hook 'em.
Hook 'em.